Okay, so I'm underneath my truck again, and I'm getting ready to remove my oil pump. The old oil pump. Probably going to put a new one on just for safety's sake, being the old one's got 1,000,000 miles on it. But I also wanted to mention something. When I took all the pistons out and I took all the rods out, I undid all this, and I undid all the rods and rod bolts and cap bolts, and I left all the mains and main bolts, okay? I wanted to mention this because this is a safety issue. If you take these loose, the crank is going to come out, and it's going to fall on you. It can fall on you. The thing weighs, maybe 1,000 pounds. It's very heavy. So whatever you do, you don't want to take these crank main bolts out all at once. We're going to change the main bearing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take one out, and I'm going to push the bearings out, and then I'm going to put this thing back together. And then I'm going to go to the next one. Take it out, put it back together. That way the crank doesn't want to fall, or it doesn't want to come out. Because if you take a whole bunch of them loose, and then the crank's going to want to drop out of here, and that's not a good thing. And it's very, very heavy too. It's dangerous. So I'm just going to do one at a time. I know some guys, they say they do every other one, and then they go back and do the even number one and the odd number one. I think I'm just going to play it safe. I'm just going to do one at a time. So before that, though, I'm going to go ahead and take my oil pump. So let's go ahead and remove the oil pump, shall we? Okay. Let's get this oil pump off of here. We'll break the bolts loose first. 13 millimeter. Hurt my knuckle. Get a better angle on this ratchet. Break apart. There we go. They're pretty tight, especially for 13. There we go. It's probably gonna give me some kind of oil bath. So I got some pig mats handy, just in case. Get those ready. Yep, the camera's sitting on one of them. There we go. Try my little screw gun. Set all the bolts down, out of the way. This thing doesn't look too heavy. Let's find out. Holding it up here on my hand now. That's not too bad. Okay. I'll lower it down, and hopefully I won't get too much of a bath. Come on. Boom. Little gasket jumped off. No big deal. And that's our oil pump. Woo, yep. The oil's coming out now. Good thing I put down a bunch of pig mats. It's pouring out. Now, something very important I figured I would mention that I've talked about with people that's had issues with their ISX with fuel mileage and running rough and these kind of things. If you look up inside here, above the oil pump, you can see that there's the gear that runs the oil pump, or the gear that, the gear that's on the crank that drives everything in the front of the engine. But right in front of that looks like another gear, but it's actually not a gear. That right there is actually a tone wheel. Okay, it's actually a tone wheel for. It's kind of hard to see. There's hardly any light up in there, but hardly any light. But right up here, and up there where the end of my fingers down there, right up in here, is the sensor for the crank position sensor, and it reads this tone wheel. And ISXs are known for this tone wheel to actually come loose, you know, for various different reasons. So whenever you have the oil pump off, or you think you've got crank or cam position sensor errors, or it's running rough, things like that, one of the things you can check is to see if this tone wheel is loose. And if it's loose, you'll be able to turn it, or you'll be able to wiggle it with your fingers. You'll get a little click clack out of it, or you know, you'll get some play out of it. This one here is really nice and tight. I'm pulling on it pretty hard in both directions, trying to turn it, and also, you know, wiggling it, and it's really nice and tight. So I know my tone wheel is good. So if I ever get cam and crank position sensors, this is one thing to check for. If you go ahead, if you replace the sensor and it's still giving you a problem, always check for this tone wheel, see if it's loose. I was told it takes a 50-ton press to get that bearing in the face of it out, or back in, or whatever. But there's also some alternative methods that Cummins has on their website as far as replacing this tone wheel, where you drill the face screws out, you take the crankshaft damper and everything off, and then you can get it out through the front of the engine, and then replace it. You know, you heat it up or something, and then you replace it all. There's a procedure on QuickServe about it. So if you ever have that problem, just make sure you follow the procedure. But it's always a good idea to check this whenever you're down here if you end up having to take the oil pump off.